So, who indeed is the Sasquatch? Do y'all know what a Sasquatch is? A Sasquatch is like Bigfoot, right? And there are many people out there who have claimed to have seen a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot lurking in the darkness, in the heat of the night, in the mountains, in the snow, in the wild, wild west. You will find Bigfoot and Sasquatch lore. You can actually read about it on Amazon too. But in case you can't find your fill of Sasquatch or Bigfoot online on Amazon in your local bookstore or maybe in your backyard, you can come on down to the Real Housewives of Atlanta and you can get your fill of Sasquatch right here. Y'all, we back in the building, Sky Squad. Let's talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 17, episode 9. Let's get into it, shall we? Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Okay, so why did I start off with this whole Sasquatch thing? I'm going to go ahead and give you my honest thoughts and feedback about this episode because I just feel like, dang, the husbands, man, they get it on these shows. They really do. Now, it would be a difference if this was like a Love and Marriage Huntsville where the men are actively involved. And I'm sure in some way, I'm sure getting paid based on the show as well. But Real Housewives of Atlanta, the men are often the subjects, some of whom which may be married pastors who we don't necessarily know, who may be Nigerian and also Phaedra's clients. I don't know. But with regards to Shamea's husband, Angela says he looks like a Sasquatch. But Shamea said Angela looked like a Sasquatch. I assumed that Shamea's Sasquatch disc was not about Angela's looks per se, as much as it is about Angela's height. But she called her a Sasquatch nonetheless. Now, the reason I think this Sasquatch dig probably cut a little bit more for me when I was watching the episode is because as you see Gerald on the show, you could tell he don't want to film. You could tell he does not want to be there. He is not interested in this drama, and he is just there to support his wife. Now, I'm assuming that the same probably goes for Charles Oakley. I guess in my mind, Charles is someone who can probably take these types of digs and keep it pushing because he has been in the public eye for a very long time and he's used to people heckling him and saying all kinds of crazy stuff to him or about him, I'm sure. But I'm sure also, too, those things do get to him. But Gerald, I just felt like, dang, like if he didn't want to do this show before, he definitely ain't gonna want to do it no more now after this whole Sasquatch. Your husband looks like Sasquatch. That's what Angela said in the episode. Now we also got to talk about this scene from the next episode. And normally I wouldn't do this because we're gonna be jumping ahead and we're gonna have to jump back. Shout out to our friends over at No Chaser TV. We see the group Phaedra, Drew, Cynthia, Porsha, and Angela all at what looks to be Lake Bailey, recapping the week's events, right? And we learn that Porsha tells the girls that she sat down with K. Michelle, that worked out, but there's still the lingering issue of Kay and Drew. And then we switch over to Angela sitting down with Shamea, and we also hear from her side of the story. Now, with regards to this, what Angela says here, and she alluded to it earlier in the scene that we're going to talk about a little bit later with her and Shamea, is that Shamea is sleeping with Atlanta Hawks and Falcons players because Angela kind of takes some jabs at her about still working. But I guess this was in response to Shamea taking jabs at her about her real estate. Fair play, I guess. But where things take a turn is that now Angela wants to talk about with the group how she believes or how she has heard that Shamea is sleeping with Atlanta Hawks and Falcons players. At this point, I will say that I totally respect what Porsha does here is that she gets up and she leaves the room. She acknowledges it in her confessional, or I think it was either in the moment or the confessional, that this was her ex-best friend. She don't want to give a head nod. She don't want to give a cough. She don't want to give a facial expression. She just is going to dismiss herself because she don't want no parts of that particular conversation or smoke. I respect that. I totally respect that. But what Angela then says in her confessional is that she definitely heard this. She definitely believes it, and she believes her source. Now, I'm just going to say this. And I guess Angela feels vindicated in saying this because she feels as though if you're going to come for Charles and say he's outside, then I'm going to say that you're outside. Now, I hope in this instance, what is being said here is not being pulled out of thin air, because it seems like every week we are getting another one of these. I heard from somebody, but we don't say who we heard it from. And that's annoying to me because what it makes me feel like is at any point in time, these ladies could just drop some tea and just say they heard it on the streets. Okay, well, nobody comes with anything, with any proof, receipts, documentation, or anything. It's just that you heard it. So it feels like this is a little bit of a dangerous element of the show because there's a repeated pattern here. You know, whether it is with Charles, whether it is with Shamea, whether it is with Kelli, or anyone else, it just feels to me like this is becoming a pattern, and I just don't know how I feel about it. So let's get into Shamea's response. Shamea posts on her Instagram this: having the last name Oakley and saying I slept with players to get ahead is diabolical. How many players, and she tags Angela right here too. She says, how many players did you have to smash before one wiped you? Oh, and if I'm not mistaken, he claimed to have been intoxicated while doing so. Please don't let these people gas you up. You and I both know I didn't run from you on last night's episode. I was asked to leave because the conversation wasn't going anywhere. There is always more than what y'all see. Hashtag reunion is coming. Hashtag I won't be silenced. Now, this had come out shortly, I'm assuming after the preview for next week came out. So this is interesting to me because clearly there were a lot of people, I think, in the comments who assumed that the reason why Shamea left or went running last night in the episode is that she was afraid that Angela was going to spill some tea about her and these Atlanta Falcons or Hawks players that Angela has now alleged that Shamea is sleeping with. Okay. So I'm not shocked that Shamea made this post. I think that she probably would have needed to make a post at this point because if you look at what Shamea is with regards to her relationships with the people on the show and where I think Shamea's character or her person or her as a cast member is going, I think that she is going to be ready to light it all up at the reunion with whatever it is. She's going to burn the house down. I said this in a previous video. I don't think y'all believe me, but I do feel like she is at the point of explosion. And this point right here, where she says, I won't be silenced, this is basically also in response, in my opinion, to production also maybe making it seem as though she went running out of the scene the way that it was showcased or shown on the show, and essentially the way that it's also somewhat described by Angela. So I just feel like we're at a point where Shamea is like, no, like you're not gonna do this to me. And I'm gonna burn it all down, OG style if I have to. So we'll see where this all goes. I am thinking that Shamea is going to definitely be one to watch in this conversation, but I also feel like the conversation with Angela and Shamea could have gone slightly different. But we'll talk about that further in the episode. But let's take things back to Phaedra's house. Phaedra's ginormous, big old backyard, her luxury home, all of her healing and sound baths and gongs, and the girls are fighting. But before we get into that,
All right, y'all, I've got to shout out today's sponsor, Visions of Color Painting and Home Improvement. Y'all know we are always talking about luxury homes here on this channel because, of course, we're talking about Real Housewives. So, if you are looking for painting, home improvement, residential or commercial here in the DMV area, I'm talking 5 stars. You're going to want to check out Visions of Color. I have also used them. I need you to take a look at these stunning before and afters so you really understand the work that is being done here, adding complete value to your assets. That is what Visions of Color does. Stunning, stunning before and afters. If you guys are looking for a company that can serve your residential or commercial needs in terms of home improvement, whether you're thinking about doing something on the inside or on the outside, you want to contact Visions of Color Painting and Home Improvement so y'all can get that housewives feel to your home. We want to up the value of your assets as well. So be sure to contact them for all of your painting and home improvement needs.
Okay, so y'all, we had to get into our sponsored video, and what better time to do it than to talk about Phaedra's home and then think about what you could do in your home, right? So let's get down into where we left off. The girls are still going at it. Now, Kelli she's cursing up a storm, ready to slap a bee as they've taken her to one side. And I can see on social media, y'all have divided these ladies up into the smalls and the talls. I mean, I get the reference. I do. But it's not like it's that many tall people on this show. Like, I guess if you're saying Angela, Cynthia, and Porsha, maybe, but I don't think Phaedra and Drew are that tall because y'all. What I see online is this division of Pinky, Kelli, Shamea, K. Michelle, and then I see the rest of the cast as another team in terms of the way I see a lot of people dividing this up. And I don't really think it's as applicable here. It's given more so OGs versus new Gs, to be more precise, I think. But y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think. Regardless, those four ladies go inside. It's Kelli, it's Shamea, it's Pinky, it's K. Michelle. They're trying to calm down Kelli. Shamea's gonna ride home with Kelli. Phaedra actually comes in to check on those ladies after she leaves the one group. So she checks in on them. But let me get to what else happens first. Before we get to Phaedra checking on the rest, all the girls, because she does try to check on both groups of girls. Porsha is escorted out and upstairs, but she's screaming about how Kelli lied on her last year and how she's getting her lick back. Now, is the getting your lick back, is that also a lie? Or, because Angela makes it seem like Porsha don't even know this man that she talking about. Angela's funny to me, and I think I appreciated her a lot more in this episode than maybe I had in some previous episodes. I still wonder why she continues to poke at Porsha in her confessionals, but not in person. But there's nothing I can do about it. It keeps happening. A lot of people say, "Well, she's just joking," and I'm like, okay, fine, fine. But it does seem to me that there is more to that issue than meets this joke. Because if you can't joke about something but so many times, well, I think you are actually serious. So for those people that say, "Well, I'm just joking," but you joked about something like throughout every episode or every other episode, then I'm gonna think you actually do have a problem that you're not addressing. Since we're not gonna address that in this episode, I don't know, and I don't know why, because Shamea does bring it up in her confessional, but it's not brought up technically in their argumentation later. They're more fussing about Sasquatches and who's outside and who's inside. But nonetheless, let's take it back. So Porsha is talking about this man, this Nigerian pastor who is also a client of Phaedra's. Now that we know he's a Nigerian pastor, is he a pastor here in the States or in Nigeria? And does that mean that the name that y'all were tossing out last week is now null and void? I don't know what that man is, so I don't know who it could be. I just know that Porsha is stating that it's now we know more. It's a Nigerian pastor who's also married and a client of Phaedra's. The details, man, the details. We get more details every single week. So oddly, Kelly never seems to outright acknowledge this. So that's interesting as well, right? Now, in terms of who was pointing at who, yes, I do think that Porsha was pointing the long nailed finger in Kelly's face. But it was after Kelly said that she had effed every Nigerian in Atlanta. So now that I'm thinking about it, y'all are like these Nigerian men. So then that leads me to wonder if Kelly's new man, Jarvis, who is paying for her $70,000 dentures, okay? Well, not dentures. Y'all know I'm joking, but $70,000 and you say in your confessional that you are still getting to know him. If somebody's giving me $70,000 worth of dental work and I'm still just getting to know, no, 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 no. That's a little bit more than getting to know. Okay. And if so, I mean, you got a real good get to know you game going. I mean, for reals. For real, for real, for real. Like you getting 70,000, you got a whole new mouth. They replaced the tongue and everything. The gums, the tongue, the tonsils. I mean, that's a lot of G's for some. I mean, these gots to be platinum veneers, not porcelain. Is there a level above porcelain veneers? What is it? Let me know because that's what Kelly got. Kelly got the works, right? She got a brand new esophagus at this point for $70,000. And again, you know, bump going to Dominican Republic or the Costa Rica, to get your dentures or Turkey. Why do that? Going down to Atlanta, you got $70,000 dangling from your Christmas tree. You too can get you some. I needed to see which dentist office that was. I mean, dang, what all did she get? And oddly enough, Shamea goes to visit, and they're wearing the same aloe outfit, which not really surprising that they were probably shot from the same stores. But what we also learned is that I think is interesting is that this man was introduced to her, Kelly, by Shamea. So then I wonder, is Jarvis African too? Is he Nigerian? I mean, because I'm just trying to think of who in the getting to know you stages, even though she said that they had been talking for about a year. So was that at the same time as the pastor? I mean, I guess if you just talking, still getting to know. I don't know. All I know is Kelly also goes to visit. Well, let's get back to the night before, right? Let's get back to the previous night. K Michelle and Pinky also leave together, and nothing gets solved between either of the two factions, the new G's or the OGs. Now, the the OGs, we're gonna call them OGs because even though they haven't been there that long, it's a really hard specification to make because there are some new G's who have been there the same amount of time as some of these girls that are with the OGs. So I don't even know what to call them. So we're not even gonna call them that right now. Angela, Porsha, and Drew are sitting outside with Phaedra as the other girls have left. And for Porsha, she doesn't understand where Kelly is chiming in on K Michelle's argument. And Angela has clearly had some conversations with K Michelle. So she's coming to the table with a better understanding of what is going on. Which makes me also wonder why she was asking specific questions because clearly you've had some conversations with K Michelle. So did you pretend to not know what was going on when she was confronting Portia? Or did you really not get all those details in your conversations with K Michelle? And see, now I want to go back and see because they do flash back to Angela sitting down with K Michelle. I want to see those conversations. I want to see those conversations between Angela. Y'all, can y'all put that in the uncut version on the Peacock, please? Because I think there's some pieces to puzzles that I need to be put together, and I'm gonna need to see the unseen footage of some of these flashbacks that y'all keep showing. Because I do think that they tell maybe a more complete side of the story of whatever is going on. Now, for Drew, she doesn't seem to understand what K Michelle why K Michelle would be bringing her up. But Angela acknowledges in her confessional that hearing Drew say that K Michelle doesn't fit in probably also hurt K's feelings. I'm gonna get to K Michelle in a second because I have I'm just go ahead and tell you actually because I don't really understand it. No, I'm gonna get to it when we get to it. At this point, Drew doesn't really understand that. But let's shift gears because we've got to move on past this one night. The next part of the episode we see is, and I'm gonna get back to Drew in a second. Kelli goes to see Phaedra in her spectacular home, and the butler's there. And I'm thinking, does the butler exist there when filming is not happening? I'm assuming that the butler's only there when filming is going on. I would have to assume that the butler is not there on a day-to-day basis. Drew, you might want to sit down with Phaedra and ask her how she needs to how she runs her team because we're gonna talk about Drew in just one second. The scene between Phaedra and Kelli was actually, in my opinion, a very good scene. I think it was eye-opening to see Kelli outside of Shamea. Not that they again, I think we need to explore some of these other relationships a bit more, and I think we're starting to do that in these episodes. I think that seeing Kelli talk about, not being able to film with her kids, which has been a topic that she has touched on before. But I also think her really coming to the house humble with flowers, apologetic, taking some accountability for things that she has said about Portia. I respected Kelli so much more in this scene, and y'all already know I don't mind Kelli. A lot of y'all can't stand her for some reason, and I listen. I get it. You may just never like this person. It. Just is what it is, and that's your right. But for me, she's not really bothersome to me. I'm enjoying getting to know her a bit more and seeing her open up. Even though I do feel like this whole Jarvis situation leaves much to be desired because as Phaedra will learn in this situation, Kelli doesn't want to open up the group to this man. But in telling us about him, we just learned that she's with someone. And we did hear him on the phone in the office with Shamea as she was getting her dental work done, the dentures or the veneers, the esophagus, the open mouth surgery, or whatever it may be. Listen, the man for $70,000, he might have got her a whole new gastrointestinal tract. I don't know. All I know is she's brand new, and there's that. So she does talk about they commiserate over the divorces and who you marry is not who you divorce. I'm assuming this is going to be what leads to Phaedra actually working with Kelli in her custody suit issues. So we're going to see more of that play out. And we also hear for Phaedra, she is empathetic to Kelli not wanting to showcase her man on this show because she understands. I mean, if it's not solid yet, then definitely don't bring him around lest he be called Sasquatch or be accused of being outside way too much. Okay. Let's keep it moving because this episode to me was good because we kept it on moving. We see Pinky having lunch well, having a photo shoot. Angela's invited. I like that Pinky and Angela, they've moved. And Pinky to me is so good for this show, in my opinion, because I think what you have here is there's the star clearly, which is Porsha. All right. I think that she's the centerpiece, but I think you have a fairy godmother, which is Phaedra. I think that is her role, the fairy godmother. I think you have the quasi-neutral OG who also is there to guide the girls in Cynthia, right? This is all support for Portia, in my opinion, right? Because again, she's the centerpiece. But because Portia is her own character, so to speak, I do think that having those other grounding ladies there, I do think helps stabilize the show. And I get it now. I really get their presence there. And this episode to me really exemplified what those roles are. And so what you have here are the rest of the ladies who are kind of new in this space. And you do need people to guide the action to a certain degree. Pinky fits in because Pinky is just so vocal that she doesn't care. She doesn't read the room. And you want that on a show like this because she kinda comes in like a bull in a china shop, but I like it because she that's real to me. Whatever she's feeling, she's gonna say it. It doesn't matter who it is, and I like that. So, as they're doing the photo shoot for her daughter, Angela brings her daughter fresh from the runway, and Cynthia is there to give some modeling advice as well, along with her Pinky's husband is there too. And so then the ladies sit down and they discuss the drama because Cynthia had left the event early. And they tell Cynthia, hey, this is what's going on. It got real bad. And there was almost a tussle, but the ladies had to be separated. And we learned that for Angela, she can see both sides in this situation. But what is going to be done about K Michelle and Portia? Because that is really the core issue right now. We learn that Angela has talked to K Michelle, but Pinky has visited Portia. This is a scene that I feel like I wish we had seen because that scene looked like it went from day to night based on the flashback. And I like that even in her own home, even in Portia's own home, Pinky is still Pinky. Pinky is still gonna get you, yeah, 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 and tell you exactly what she thinks, right, wrong, or indifferent. Whether you agree with her, you don't agree with her. I just like the fact that she's willing to state her case and interrupt and interject and speak over top of it to the point where Portia's got to say, "Hold on, girl, it's my turn now. My turn to speak." Right? I want to see more of that. I like this type of carrying on. So Pinky, you good in my book for me. You good in my book. I don't care what the people say. You good in my book. We ain't even talk about bankruptcies no more. Okay, you still inserting yourself in the mess. Love it. All right. So essentially, we've got that situation under control because what we later will learn is that Pinky and Cynthia are going to bring K Michelle and Portia together. And again, I'm gonna give you my thoughts on that in a second. So stick around. But we've also got to fix Angela and Shamea. Can we fix that? Cynthia is charging Pinky and Angela with rallying the troops, right? This is where you get that grounding force, that energy, that OG energy. Cynthia's going to give you reactions. Oh my God, what damn ex? You know, and I had to curse because I was in the character, right? But she's gonna give you those things. And it almost was reminiscent of Nene in some. I was getting flashbacks of Nene watching Cynthia in this scene. And I'm not saying she was channeling Nene, but it just reminded me of Nene's reactions when Nene, like in later seasons, when Nene would come in and get the tea from the girls, right? That's what it kind of gave me. So Angela's gonna commit to working through some things with Shamea because she realizes that if she's gonna try to fix these other issues with some of the other ladies, then she's got to work on this issue with Shamea as well. And I totally agree with that. So they're gonna have a one-on-one. And I do think that Angela went into this conversation ready to have some open dialogue with Shamea about what's going on. Meanwhile, Shamea is talking to her family, and she feels like, honestly, the girls are just honest. I think she thinks the girls are out to get her too. And I would think that she's not too far off on the money with that one. But Shamea, we got to work on some things with her because Shamea at home, I think she's in a difficult spot. I think that this whole situation with Gerald wanting a boy is weighing heavily on her, and it is seemingly like it's almost like she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders with regards to extending this family even more. Even at I mean, listen, there's already a lot that she's dealing with what she's already experienced. I think this added pressure is probably not the best for her. And I wonder how much she has told Gerald about how this seems to be stressing her out because I would have to wonder if does he know this? And if he does, has he softened his approach with wanting a male heir? Because I do feel like this could be a cultural thing, or it could, again, just be what they agreed upon when they got married. But you also got to recognize that what you agreed upon when you got married may also change. This, I think, is also, it's not reminiscent of what we saw on Love and Marriage Huntsville. But I think with Love and Marriage Huntsville, what we saw with Letitia and Marceau was there is the agreements that were made in the beginning of the relationship and then the changes that needed to be made along the way as the relationship progressed. I think that a similar situation has to happen with Shamea and Gerald, where circumstances have definitely changed. And we need to be okay with where we are today as a result of the circumstances having changed and things that were unknown at the time now becoming known and now becoming more apparent. Now we need to maybe change our strategy. Do we need to adopt? Is there someone that you know who made I mean I just think that there's a lot of pressure on Shamea, and I don't know if she's communicating that with Gerald. We don't know that. We don't see it. We see her communicating it to other people. So I think that that needs to be a conversation that needs to be had. But again, will that man even show up on the show anymore that now that he knows that, he is being called Sasquatch by the people? So let's talk about the meeting between K Michelle. No, let's talk about Drew. Okay. This Drew scene was so interesting to me. So Drew is getting a new manager, right? She's under new management. So shout out to Keon. I don't know Keon, but Keon does look like Keon means business. Keon looks like she is on top of things somewhat because even in their meeting, Drew was late to that meeting. And I'm like, listen, girl, like, you gotta get it together. You really have to get it together. And we're gonna have a real conversation about Drew right now because I think we need to. Drew, you know that you are going through HE double hockey sticks with this divorce with Ralph. Considering what we know about the finances, what we know about the situation with almost being, moved out of the home, what the home is apparent allegedly in terms of the mortgage that is behind. These are the things that have come out in the news now. So as I watch this scene back, I'm thinking to myself, listen, we have all been in some bad situations. And it more than anything, I know how unstable the entertainment industry really is. And for you, Drew, and I say this as someone who has been down in the depths, okay? I've had my car repossessed when I was out in LA. It was just bad, man. So I say all this to say I understand what this world of entertainment can be like, but I also think that you are kind of your own worst enemy at this point. Because here's the thing, some of this work needs to be contracted out, okay? Now, maybe that is the case right now. And maybe these are the people that you just work with on a as needed basis. Because that's how it's usually done. I mean, typically, a lot of times in this business, people will have their go-to makeup person, their go-to hair person, and their go-to stylist. Okay. All of those people don't necessarily have to come into contact with each other. They can, and they likely will. Okay. But the way that they're running this team meeting is that all of these people are working together at a round table all the time, or that they are the way this meeting was run was like a corporate meeting where this team is interacting at all times. But to me, there doesn't seem to be a solid through line. Did she have management before? Who was the central person before? That's what I really need to know. And did she fire that person? Because why are all these people running amok in this way? Okay? That's what I really want to know. And I know this industry. Okay. I know this industry. So I'm side eyeing this entire meeting. Now, I know it was entertaining for a lot of y'all, but I'm still side eyeing it because for me, okay, as I don't know why you need that many assistants. You need one assistant. Okay. One. And to be honest with you, it sounds like it might need to be that family friend that you've had for years and years and years and years and years. Now, I'm not saying you need to fire that other person, but what I will say is if you can see that there is someone on your team who is having it out with everybody else, then you've got to make some decisions about a lot of things. And right now, you don't necessarily need to be in a situation where this team needs to be run by you in this way because there are way too many people. There were 9 people, I counted. 9 people. 9 people. Somebody's gonna have to take some photographer duties, okay? We might not be able to use the photographer all the time. We might have to contract when we use a professional photographer. And then we may have to right now use an assistant who has some specialized skills to get some BTS of you when you need it. Okay. Like all of those people, it's just too much. It's just too much for you to be constantly late. And I will wager to say you might be too late because you got too many people. Don't nobody else seem like they having these same problems. Phaedra got a butler. You need to talk to her about how to manage your folks. For real, for real. If anybody need to be working with Phaedra, it might need to be Drew. It's too much. And one of the assistants is talking about how bad the hairstylist is getting Drew's hair. Drew catching strays left and right in her own meeting. And Keon, I'm gonna need you to put a stop. I mean, I know you gotta let the scene play out because it's drama, but y'all gotta tighten this ship because in real time, I know that scene was entertaining, but in real time, Drew seems to be suffering. So it just looks crazy. It looks real crazy to me. It looks insane. We've got bigger priorities than to deal with all of these people who are allegedly all being paid. If y'all all being paid and y'all acting like this, no, no. This is not candy in the game, Drew. You're gonna have to scale it back. Okay. Now, let's talk about K Michelle. I mean, I kind of wanted to save this conversation because we talked ad nauseum about K Michelle and Porsha over the last week. And the last thing I really want to do is have another week where we have to focus on them. But if we must, we must. Pinky and Cynthia get K Michelle and Porsha together and they leave the table, essentially. I like how they did it. I like that they did it. Porsha and K Michelle, in my opinion, I don't I don't know that they really have a problem. As we've dissected this thing from end to end, as I've tried to really understand Kay as a new person coming into this group and having these suspicions based on something that she has been told, I do believe that she's been told something. I don't know by whom. I think all of these circumstances either are super coincidental or they perhaps mean something. At what I don't know. It does not feel in the moment as though Portia is trying to get her. It doesn't seem that way. From what we can see on the screen, it appears as though. And maybe there were some mean girl antics, or maybe there was some missteps. Maybe there have been some things that K Michelle had valid feelings about in this situation with Porsha. But I do agree, as Porsha tells her, that if you have these issues, come to me, right? Come to me. I do agree with that. And K Michelle says, I'll give you that. Okay. I'll give you that. I should have came to you. Then K Michelle explains her side. She saw the whole situation happen with Kelli. She got flipped out. The miscarriage thing came up. It flipped her out even more. Now they didn't really touch on the X of it all in this conversation, thank God, because I think that that convolutes this whole conversation. And it's really difficult for the audience to follow because we don't see it happening on the screen. So that happens. Well, they don't talk about, they don't really get into too much of that, or unless they did and it was cut out. All we know is at this point that they don't really have bad, like, they don't have bad blood for each other. They don't. And in fact, I would actually, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think that K Michelle is actually a little enamored with Portia. I do. I do. There's something I think that K Michelle is looking for from Portia, and I can't really define it. All I can tell you is the energy I'm reading when I'm watching the screen. And when I say enamored, I mean enamored. I think that she is enamored by Portia in some way, shape, or form. There's some level of friendship or kinship that she wants to have with her, but there is things that keep happening along the way that are frustrating K Michelle about this whole situation. So, regardless, they end on a good note. They're gonna at least, for K Michelle, she needs at least like 48 hours. If I have a problem with you, give me 48 hours. And in real time, I think that's how real life works. If somebody does something to you in real life, you really do not always, I don't process it right then and there. But on TV, we want you to process it right then and there because we've got to move on. Like, for us, for you, when you don't process it on a reality TV show, it may be 2 days for you. But for us, it is 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks, 2 weeks of episodes. So we've got to now debate all week or figure this out and then look at the previews and then go another week and maybe another week before we actually find out what the real issue is. Or we've got to rely on a tweet from 8 months ago that they may talk about in the episode and nobody knows on the episode what it's about. So, yeah, K Michelle, we need you to talk about it on the show, what's happening. Okay. Now, with regards to Drew, because that comes up as Cynthia and Pinky come back to the table. Portia wants to know, well, what is up? Like, what's going on? Like, what's the plot? And K. Michelle reveals that there was, again, this alleged plot by Phaedra, Portia, and Drew. She admits she's talked to Phaedra. She admits she's talked to Miss Portia about it. And now there's the Drew of it all. There were three things, according to K. Michelle, that Drew was plotting on her with. This this idea that K. Michelle somehow knows black, maybe more than what she was indicating. There was the stinky kitty of it all. And now there is a new one, her long toes. Drew was going to expose K. Michelle's long foot toes. So what if your toes are long? So what? I mean, what were they gonna do with that? I mean, how were they gonna get you with that? How is that gonna be the read? Now, what Portia does indicate, though, in her confessional is she does admit, yes, Drew will go the distance with looking up information and finding out tea on people, but it's against people that she feels like are coming for her. Now, in K. Michelle's confessional, she says, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you were to tell me that you felt like Drew, after meeting her, having interactions with her, after maybe sitting down with her, if you felt like she wasn't being authentic, if that were the crime, then okay, I might be able to rock with you on that one. Because as much as I like Drew. I think that Drew is fun, but I do think that Drew sometimes is playing the role of a housewife. I do. Especially now that we see her out of context and out of her own context, meaning we don't see her with, her kids. We don't see her with Ralph. We don't see her with her mom, her sister. We see Drew in scene with other women on the cast, or we see her now with her team, right? And even as she's with her team, she's kind of not the focal point of the team, right? They're taking shots at her and talking about her hair. And I'm like, well, number one, I can definitely say I've never seen a hair out of place on Drew. Like, if there is, I mean, we might be able to say a couple of things, but you won't say that the woman's hair is out of place. Okay. I've never seen that. Well, at least not in these recent these seasons here. You don't see that with Drew. I'm just gonna say it. Okay. I can't even recall when she first came on the show, but I'm just saying what I know about her now, you don't see a hair out of place. Okay. So as K Michelle is saying, well, you all know what I'm talking about. I'm thinking because Portia's like, tell us who told you this. And K Michelle refuses, and Portia's like, well, I wish whoever said this would reveal themselves. And K Michelle in her confessional, where I think she's gonna tell us, what she ends up saying is, I'm gonna hold the person's feet to the fire that started the fire, and that's Drew. What fire? What fire? Where's the blaze? Nothing's burning down, K Michelle. You are burning it down because you are telling us, you are narrating the supposed plot that we don't see. Every little plot that's come up, at least regards to Drew, you have initiated it. So are you trying to beat her to the scheme and exposing punch? Because it's not landing the way that I think you feel like maybe you are narrating the story. In fact, you might need to let it play out and then see what happens. Are you really embarrassed by her saying you knew Black or that y'all are friends? And if so, what did that mean? What does that mean? Okay. So anyway, the last thing that we see is Shamea and Angela. This could have gone so well, and I really wish that it would have. But I think that Shamea went up with her defenses up. I think that Shamea had every right to ask, why is it that you have this anger towards me? Because I don't know what I did. If you can walk me back through what I did, maybe I can either apologize for it, explain it, or we can just hash it out or an agree to disagree. But I really want to know what it is because I also feel like the punishment doesn't fit the crime. I'm being punished for something that someone else said, or I'm being punished for something that I don't know. So I need for you to explain it to me because I really would like for us to be able to move on. I think that that's what Angela went in there for. But I think that when Shamea said, well, your discernment is off and you need to use that discernment to sell some houses, I think that that's where that was blow number one. Okay. I think at that point, Angela had to reassess how she was going to handle the situation. And at that point, the gloves came off because now they are talking about other things. There was a question that Angela asked about, did you tell K Michelle how we met? And this is where I need to see more of those conversations between K Michelle and Angela because I need to know what K Michelle said to Angela about Shamea. Okay. Or if she did, maybe something slipped up. Maybe it was something innocuous that Angela picked up on that then reveals itself to be something that Shamea has said that has put Angela in a negative spot with Shamea even further. That would also make Angela think that Shamea is the one spreading the tea. What are those conversations with Angela and K Michelle? That's what I need to see. production, y'all need to show us that because it could unravel some of this mystery, or it could totally vindicate Shamea, right? So they get down into it. I mean, now they're calling, I mean, Shamea's calling her Sasquatch and, a big lady. Um, Angela's talking about, well, your husband's outside. No, you're outside. And Shamea's like, well, Shamea's like, your husband's outside. Angela's like, no, you're outside. You're channeling Porsha. You're channeling Candy because you want to be Candy because you don't have your own identity. I was like, ooh. And Angela then throws a read that was thrown at her back at Shamea. Pinky said this about Angela, but I don't think Angela heard it. Angela commented about it on social media. When Pinky joked about Angela having to lie on her back to get to where she is, Angela then uses that same statement against Shamea. She basically says that Shamea had to lay on her back to get on her feet. Now, I ain't gonna lie. That was savage the way it was stated. But that's the same thing that Angela fussed at Pinky about online for saying about her on the show. But laying on your back to get on your feet is wild work when you think about the actual act of laying on your back and getting on your feet. Um, Angela has just a way with words that is just to me unmatched. And her voice is a little deeper, so it carries better. So in an argument, she sounds louder. Either that or production turns up her volume just a little bit, so you hear more of what she's saying versus what Shamea is saying. But whatever she's saying, let's turn that volume up because when she goes there, she goes there. Okay, and she truly went there in this episode, calling Gerald Sasquatch. But again, Shamea called her Sasquatch. And Angela's like, well, I see why she don't want to be at home. And I was thinking, poor Gerald. Poor Charles. Poor Gerald. That man, he's not gonna ever want to do this show again. So what I also found interesting was that they did I think they're called ITMs in the moment confessionals. There are confessionals that we haven't seen in a long time on reality TV shows. These are confessionals that are done in the moment, right? Or they're done on location versus waiting till the women, and they've done this before. They did this with Porsha in an earlier episode. I think when Mike came to visit her, I thought it was cute when they did it then, and I kind of wanted more of it. And they did it again in this episode, and I like how they're sparsing, like they're spacing these out in such a way that they're kind of like sneaking these in, and I like it because I feel like they're doing them where appropriate. It was kind of appropriate to get Shamea outside saying she's saying that I'm outside, but you're saying your husband's seeing me outside, so he's outside too. And then that's where you also get Angela talking about, well, I see why she doesn't want to go home because her husband looked like Sasquatch. I mean, I mean, Listen, Atlanta is firing on all cylinders. If you do not like it this season, I have no idea why, because there is some magic happening here, and it's very interesting magic, not in the way that I thought it would be, but it's still interesting nonetheless. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Also, be sure to check out our sponsor, Visions of Color. They have a promotion right now where you can get $50 off, so you do not want to miss that. And also let them know that Richie sent you. That will be in the description and in the first comment of this video. So more to come on that. All right. With that being said, I will catch you in the next video.